You and I were having a little bit of a chat off air about some policy changes that can really help increase people's borrowing capacity, but it all depends on where they're going, what kind of lifestyle they've got, what kind of profession they've got. But you started unpacking so many of them, and I just thought if we could just rattle off a top 3 for this episode, mate. Why don't we start with number 1, the policy change you were talking about for people that are self-employed. Can you expand on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. For most people that are self-employed, it seems to be always a little bit more challenging in terms of borrowing cash. Financials change every year, the incentives change, and banks treat self-employed in so many different ways. So for us as brokers, we always try to find ways of maximizing borrowing capacity using the right policies. And one of them that's sort of been standing out for a long time now is one with Macquarie Bank, which is basically for most self-employed, especially when they're sole traders and they trade under their own ABN, any debt related to that entity, it's actually treated as a personal liability rather than a business liability.
So if you get like a car loan or something like that?
100%. What Macquarie Bank does, if that asset is actually being used 100% of, for business use, and we can back it up with an accountant's letter, it's actually treated as a business liability. And because Macquarie Bank does not treat a business liability as a debt as per se against the individual, so that itself, increases the borrowing capacity by quite a bit.
That could be massive for self-employed. All right. And there was another one that you were talking about for, what was it, like nurses or doctors, or there was something about LVR. Can you expand on this one?
Yeah. No, in terms of, the nurses in particular, it's something that's, somewhat new. And probably just after COVID, some of the lenders started to waive the LMI or lender's mortgage insurance for nurses. So anyone that has got is a registered nurse and potentially can borrow up to 90% without paying any lender's mortgage insurance, which is quite a massive win.
What if I put on a nurse's outfit? I'd do that to avoid LMI.
Well, you can do that. You look pretty.
Might not qualify, but so 90% lend without any kind of lender's mortgage insurance for nurses. That's awesome. Who's doing this? Or this is a few lenders?
There's a few lenders out there doing it, but if I was to mention, the Westpac group, St. George Bank SA and Westpac, they're part of this package, yes.
Fantastic, man. And rolling it out then as well for a third one on the list, more around first home buyers. Now, I know there's a ton of different incentives around, depending on which state you're in, from like complete waivers on stamp duty down to like basically just general first home buyer incentives and grants. But what was this one for a lender?
Well, if there's a time in the market for first home buyers to get in, I dare to say it's right now. In every state, there is some sort of incentive. It's either for construction or for established homes. The biggest one, for first home buyers is basically the first home guarantee scheme, which is, it's got 35,000 spots, throughout the financial year. And that applies for, for regional as well as, metropolitan areas. Stamp duty concessions, applicable to some states in a low deposit, it's a massive win, So if anyone wants to actually get into the market with a low deposit, it's right now.
And wasn't there one lender that was offering like an extra little incentive there?
Yeah, ANZ is the lender that is coming with a $3,000 incentive. That's for loans, more than $250,000 and applicable to first home buyers. So it's another piece of incentive that's out there.
I feel like they may as well just say all loans. What are you buying for under $250 these days anyway?
Hard to find. Yeah. So I dare to say that's for all loans.
Yeah. All right, fair enough, man. And just in case if you're listening to this right now and thinking, well, hold on a second, I thought this is a property investing podcast, not a first home buyers podcast. Yes and no. From the Unstuck Yourself competition entries that we got, there were so many people that I was surprised that were still at the start line that hadn't purchased yet. So if you're one of those people right now, this could be one of the things that actually helps you actually take that step to the next level. But if you're not and you're thinking, Todd, I got 10 properties, I don't care about that. There is someone that you know right now that is a first home buyer. Send them this episode, because sometimes it's the difference between little things like this can be the difference between sitting on the sidelines and actually getting into the market. But one thing that I did also just want to preface with this as well, that Andre and I were talking about off air, is all of these policy changes right now are time sensitive. So as much as at the time of recording, which is actually the 12th of September 2023, this is all relevant information. If you're listening to this in 6 months' time, talk to your broker, because they may have got worse, but they may have even got better as well. Andre Garcia from Fidelis Financial, thank you so much for jumping on the show, mate. This is going to help a lot of people. I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
No worries, Todd. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Now, I know you might be listening to this episode thinking, Todd, I'm not a nurse. I'm not a self-employed. I'm not a first home buyer. Like I said at the start, these are just 3 of the policy changes. There are so many. I think the biggest takeaway I'm personally wanting everyone to get from this is talk to your broker, because maybe your bank is doing the best thing for you, and maybe there actually isn't a better deal, but maybe there is. And maybe this is something that is going to be the difference, like I said before, between sitting on the sidelines or actually getting that next investment property, or potentially even the first investment property. But you don't know unless you ask. So make sure you're having a chat with a good broker today. But otherwise, guys, my name is Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast. And as always, have yourself an amazing rest of the week. Stay awesome.